Welcome back to Hungry Theologian, helping you taste and see that the Lord is good. Today we're continuing our series of recipes from Robert Farrar Capon's Supper of the Lamb. Make sure you check out the first video on lamb stew. Today we're going to prepare the rest of our leg of lamb and then use some of that meat in a lamb and spinach casserole. It's an easy weeknight dinner, so let's get started. You can see that I left a little bit of meat and connective tissue on the end of the bone that I cut from the stew meat in the last video. It's not the prettiest butchering, but that's fine because it will all be imparting flavor to the different dishes. Our first step is to braise the remainder of our leg of lamb. Slice 6 cloves of garlic into 3 or 4 slices each, then make some small cuts all over the meat and insert the garlic. Heat some oil in a heavy-bottomed pot or Dutch oven that's large enough to hold your lamb, and brown the meat on all sides. Then add 2 medium onions sliced and stir until browned. Add a cup of dry white wine, some thyme, and salt and pepper. Then cover and cook on low on the stove or in a 350-degree oven for 2 hours. Let the meat cool enough to work with, then take it off the bone and cut into bite-sized pieces. Set aside 2 larger portions of the meat, 1 smaller portion, and then the bone and leftover bits of meat. These will form the next 4 recipes we're making. The first larger portion of meat will go into a lamb and spinach casserole. Cook 2 pounds of fresh spinach over medium-high heat or defrost frozen spinach. I'm using a wok here because it can hold a large quantity of spinach. If you're using a smaller pan, just work in batches. In a large mixing bowl, combine the spinach, the portion of lamb, 1/4 cup of butter softened, 4 tablespoons mayonnaise, 2 cloves of garlic minced, a few drops of sherry, and the cheese of your choice, along with salt and pepper to taste. Pour into a casserole dish and place in a 350-degree oven for 20 minutes. This is an easy weeknight meal if you already have the cooked lamb set aside. Some good bread on the side can add plenty of calories to make up for the smaller amount of lamb, and you can add a salad if you need more food. In this series, I'm showing you how to take a single leg of lamb and cook 5 different dishes with it. 4 from Capon's book, plus a bonus one of my own at the end. And this style of eating, where we stretch out a single piece of meat over several different dishes, can help us grow in gratitude. This is a style of cooking for families that have to get dinner on the table every night and make the most of limited resources. And I think that this way of eating helps us recognize God's abundance. Eating is a formative practice, and when we continue to feast on the same leg of lamb made into radically different dishes over the course of a week, we're formed to recognize God's abundance all around us. One of the places where we see this formative nature of eating is in Deuteronomy chapter 12. As the Israelites come into the Promised Land, they're told to destroy the places of idol worship and instead worship God at the place He chooses for His temple. There they will bring their offerings and feast with the whole community, young and old, slaves, and the Levites who have no land of their own. This temple feasting would form the Israelites to be a people who rejoiced in God's abundance. It's easy to turn to God in times of need, when we really recognize our need for Him, but it's something else to turn to God in times of abundance. Usually when we're experiencing abundance, it's easiest for us to forget about God. As the Israelites feasted together in the temple as part of their worship, they would be formed to recognize that God was their provider. Rather than turning to idols, they would recognize that the one true God provided them with the abundance that they were experiencing. And so this Easter season, as we continue to feast on lamb, let's feast with gratitude, recognizing that God is our provider. This spinach casserole is a bit of a smaller meal, depending on the size of your leg of lamb and the size of your family, but it's a great way to use up the leftover meat, and you can see that this could easily be adapted to any sort of leftovers you have in the future. You can always add some good bread on the side or a side salad to add calories to the meal. But I love what Capon writes about this recipe. He says, one of the commonest graces prays that we may be ever mindful of the needs of others. But well, an occasional entree in short supply puts a few more teeth into that prayer. So let's eat with gratitude as we remember that God is our provider. In the next video, I'll show you how to use the next portion of your leg of lamb in a lamb fried rice. If you want to follow along with these recipes in the Supper of the Lamb, I'll leave a link to the book in the description. If you found this video helpful and you want to see more, please consider subscribing and sharing with your friends.